Hey, everybody, thank you for clicking on this YouTube link to listen to our podcast, which is Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. And this is where two wrestling fans talk about stuff about wrestling, like how little sense it makes, like given by the title of the show you're listening to. Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. And we've got a lot of ground to cover. And we're going to talk about this month, we're going to talk about world champions. Well, not really world champions, kind of champions and championship reigns that haven't really panned out and haven't really done a good thing. Like, a championship is kind of supposed to be given to, like, the top guy, the face that can draw the most people in, or the heel who is the most heelish so that you want to see him lose. That's kind of the idea with that. But sometimes you get a championship reign that's just not good, for various reasons. So we're going to talk about that stuff. It's me and John. Hey, John, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Yay! We're all good. So let's jump straight into this. The impetus of this... Impetus? Is that the right word?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yes! I feel like it's close to a real word, but I've just made up a new one. But anyway, we'll go with this. The reason we're doing this episode is because of Brock Lesnar and his historic championship run, which was like 480 days. How long was it?
504 days.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, 504 days. And in those 504 days, like, what has he done with them? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he was champion, but his biggest threat was Roman Reigns, and he beat him like 3 times already before he lost it. And that's in the space of what, 5 months, 6 months?
Oh yeah, well, stretching back to SummerSlam last year, pretty much.
Oh, fuck yeah!
Where they had like a big like 4-way Universal title match, but that's like one of the rare instances where he actually defended it, because for most of those 504 days, he was, off at home hunting or trying to cheat UFC drug tests or whatever.
Yeah.
Just and stuff. By my count, he only defended the title like 7 times on TV, which is ridiculous.
7 times?
Yeah.
In like almost 2 years?
I mean, whatever happened to the days of champion being stripped of the title after not defending it for 30 days?
Yeah, that's a rule that always used to annoy me. Not because of the rule itself, but because of the selective way that they would implement it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
They would just be like, sometimes we gotta get the belt off you if you can't defend it. Like, wow, that's a good rule because, champion has to defend his championship. And then they're like, yeah, come on, Brock Lesnar, do whatever the fuck you want. And especially for your heavyweight championship, it devalues it somewhat. Like, I get the idea that they were trying to kind of mix in like a UFC kind of big fight feel with like, old school wrestling where back in the day Hulk Hogan would be champion for 1,000 days, but like defended, every couple of months.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't really work these days for wrestling. Like, there's a reason people watch wrestling and don't watch MMA. It's because wrestling isn't MMA. It's different. It's a different thing, Like, we don't want to see all the goofus rules that happen in MMA because this is pro wrestling and it's different. And that's the hook, is that it's different, So, like...
I think that's what kind of worked about his, like, first... well, not his first, but his WWE title reign from a couple of years ago, like in the aftermath of beating Undertaker and then like beating Cena for the title and like going on that. I think it was only like 200 odd days, that one, but that did feel different because that was like you say, like almost like a UFC style. He only shows up for the like big events to defend the title kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that was good because that was different to what we're, presented with all the rest of the time. Whereas this Universal Championship reign just Well, it's like double the amount of time that WWE title reign was, for one thing. But yeah, and the fact that the Universal Championship as well is still, a relatively new title.
Yeah.
I think there's only been 4 or 5 champions in total, and to have a title which is supposed to be like the big, marquee championship of a brand, and then have it not actually appear on that brand for 9/10 of the year or whatever,
yeah,
then it's just, well, where's the value in it? Why should we care about that championship when it's rarely seen?
Yeah, and also the thing that annoyed me about both of Brock Lesnar's recent championship reigns is that the idea is supposed to build anticipation for the fight. You want to see Brock Lesnar fight whoever wants the belt. It's supposed to bring legitimacy to the belt because the idea is that people want the belt, which is entirely the point. But they have done such a cack-handed job both times Brock Lesnar was champion of establishing that.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar wouldn't be on the show, so nobody would acknowledge that there was even a championship. They wouldn't, instead of ganging together and being, I want the belt, I want to bring it back, I want to be the guy. They just forget about it until Brock Lesnar's there, and then he can work an angle with somebody.
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, they did have Roman Reigns kind of fill that role.
Yeah, but
both times.
But kind of. I mean, they did it this time, but at the end of his fucking run, which is way too long, and just because they want Roman Reigns to be the guy, it seems it's very strange that they prolonged from WrestleMania to SummerSlam, which was an idea I did not agree with, because we all knew it was happening, and we all sat through WrestleMania expecting it to happen, and it didn't happen. A classic swerve that they love to pull. But to stretch it from WrestleMania to SummerSlam was too much.
Way too much.
And
it's not really helped Roman Reigns at all as well, because I think the idea of stretching out was to kind of try all these different things to, make him the big face and get people actually behind him for once. But nothing they seem to do actually, works in getting him that popularity, which is why they've kind of gone back to the Shield again now, just to try and give the fans some reason to care about him.
Well, I had heard people say that the reason the Shield are back now is because whatever plan they had in place that they were going to do with the Shield before Dean Ambrose got injured, they're just gonna do it now. So you feel like if Ambrose wasn't injured, maybe this whole Brock Lesnar thing would have been sorted out earlier. Who knows? But I want to do a sidebar for a second, because I love doing these. It's another one of my convoluted theories. It doesn't make any sense. And it's about Braun Strowman, and how really Braun Strowman is the guy, and Roman Reigns is only at this point because Braun Strowman's going to be the guy to beat him. Really, they're putting their money on Braun Strowman, right?
Well, I thought that until the big heel turn this week.
What was that? Have I screwed something up?
I don't know if you've seen Raw this week, but yeah, he turned on Roman Reigns during the main event and then sided with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. So Braun Strowman has basically all that time and effort, all those random stunts where he was pulling down, stages and scaffolding and knocking over the stages and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Basically, all of that stuff to make him a big monster babyface, and they've just decided to turn him heel to try and give Roman Reigns the cheers instead.
Maybe. I mean, here's the thing. Because Braun is so over, there's a chance that they'll just... the way Becky Lynch has turned, but everybody's still on Becky's side. Because she's right. She has been overlooked, and she does deserve the spotlight. It's the same with Braun Strowman. He's still over. He still does crazy stuff. He's just a bad guy doing it, but they're still gonna love him if they keep giving him stupid stuff to do.
Yeah.
So like at some point, I think they realized that Roman Reigns was good, but not gonna be the guy. And then they had Braun Strowman, who they figured we could make this guy into the guy. He's he's big enough. He can talk to a reasonable degree.
Yeah.
He can work, and he does all these big stunts and stuff that gets him crazy over. So like, why don't we just keep shoving Roman Reigns down people's face because they don't like Roman Reigns, but what they do like is Braun Strowman beating the shit out of Roman Reigns. So I figure if they just keep the gas on Roman Reigns, at some point it'll end up Reigns versus Strowman for the title. Strowman's going to go over big. Bam, there's your new star right there.
Yeah, I think you're putting way too much faith into Vince McMahon and WWE, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think we're probably in for like another lengthy title reign, I imagine, with Roman Reigns just trying to re-establish the Universal title for the same reasons we talked about before. I'm pretty sure Strowman is just going to be fed to Roman Reigns.
Well, I'm going to make a bold prediction right here. Reigns versus Strowman, WrestleMania next year. What do you think of that?
Oh, there's no way they have the patience for that.
Oh,
I mean, it's already happening at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it can't happen again.
Oh yeah, they'll do it like whatever pay-per-view comes after Hell in a Cell.
Probably, yeah. Hey, listen. I mean, WrestleMania is a long time away, and we know that I'll have forgotten this prediction in like a week. So, like next month, I'll have a new prediction. It'll be Dolph Ziggler versus Roman Reigns. It's a shoo-in, I don't want to watch that. Oh yeah, speaking of Dolph Ziggler, boy, that guy, his World Championship reigns, God bless him. I mean, I like Ziggles, Mr. Ziggles, but his World Championship reigns were not good.
No,
and not really because of like concussions suck. He couldn't really do anything about that.
Yeah.
So to have that taken away from him, here's the funny thing: since then, no concussions.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
I mean, he's doing fine. Like they took the belt off him because they're like, he's a bit of a hazard risk. He hasn't got hurt at all now. So, maybe it's time to give him. I mean, I think by now, the moment has passed on Dolph Ziggler. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally.
Like they could give him like another like a Mark Henry kind of. You've been with the company for ages. He has a legitimate title reign, but like it's not quite the same. He can still go. He's still entertaining, but I think he's like a very solid like upper mid carder.
I think like over the last few years as well, he's just lost so many matches that fans would just look at him as a loser automatically. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for him to be taken seriously as a world champion again nowadays, I think.
Yeah, they just wouldn't buy it,
Nah.
I mean, he's good where he is, but like... And, yeah. Do you remember that... like, Elimination Chamber match where, like, one of the pods broke and everybody freaked out? And Dolph Ziggler was really loudly calling spots in the middle of the chamber to try and, like, cover it up. Do you remember this?
I don't remember this one, no.
Oh, fuck. I don't remember. I think this is a couple of years ago, and Mark Henry was in one of the pods, and I think it was Mark Henry, and somebody threw somebody else into the pod, and it broke, so the door broke off, and so Mark Henry stood there for a bit, and then he's like, well, if the door's open, I can get out. So he just got out and started wrecking the house, right? Because, logically, that's exactly what he should do.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's like, fuck, the whole match is ruined now. And Dolph Ziggler, like, is calling these really loud, like, you can totally hear him. And you can see him yelling these spots at people. And, like, that match was not good. And, fair play to him for calling it on the fly. But, like, that was not a good call.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what Elimination Chamber that was, but I remember that because it was so funny. And Botchamania had a real fucking field day with that one.
It must have been a few years ago if it involved Mark Henry as well.
Yeah, I think it was Mark Henry. It was a big guy, you know. So yeah, it was probably a couple of years ago, but they don't make them like that anymore. I think after that they changed the pods so they don't break as easily.
Yeah.
Well,
on the subject of Ziggler and like his unfortunate like situation with getting those concussions and stuff, and those affecting his like title reign. Like I thought another guy who kind of whose title reign suffered because of like outside influences was like Rob Van Dam. Like when he won the Money in the Bank and then cashed it in. It was either on Edge or John Cena and won the WWE title for the first and only time.
Yeah.
Like back in 2006 in the build up to I think it was One Night Stand 2. Like just before WWE were about to relaunch ECW and make it a big deal.
Yep.
And then him and Sabu kind of got busted by the cops with a load of like drugs and pills and stuff in their car.
Yeah.
And was super lucky not to get fired, but like Rob Van Dam had to drop the title like 2 days later or something.
Sabu did get fired, right?
Because
here's the thing,
like, feeling he might have done, but I could have sworn he was still going at WrestleMania the next year.
Oh fuck, maybe he did. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, like you could tell that they didn't want Sabu there. He did not fit in at all. So, like, I wouldn't have been surprised if, like, any chance they had to get rid of him, they would have, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a shame, because, yeah, RVD was pretty hot right then.
But, I mean, at the same time, it was kind of his own fault for it all falling down around him and, like, his reign basically turning to shit, so...
Yeah, not so good. Speaking of that, do you remember Jack Swagger?
Oh, yes.
Well, we all know his championship reign was not good, but wasn't he supposed to fight Alberto Del Rio? Was it Alberto Del Rio? He was supposed to fight somebody at WrestleMania for the belt. And then he got busted for, like, marijuana. And so he lost his match at WrestleMania quite quickly.
Really? I don't remember that one.
Well, I don't know if it was like I don't think it was a squash, but, like, from what I had heard, Swagger was supposed to go over, and then, like, that week he got busted for weed, and then did not go over, which was a shame, because I like Jack Swagger, and
really?
I do, and I used to like him because I thought he was a good wrestler.
Yeah,
right?
I can understand that.
And then I loved him when he did one thing, and I loved him, and then after that they got rid of him, or he left or whatever, like immediately after he did this beautiful thing. But he was on Raw, and then once SmackDown was live or whatever, he just came out on SmackDown. Like some match happened, I don't even remember what match, but then after the match, like Jack Swagger appears for no reason, and he goes to the ring and he gets on the mic, and he cuts like the most beautiful promo you've ever heard. It makes no sense. At some point, he starts talking about his hot wife. And then that's it. He's like, I'm on SmackDown now, bye. And then you never saw him again. And I'm like, dude, that is the best fucking... like, that's his gimmick. Just a fucking... He just says weird shit. Like, way better than R-Truth. You know what I mean? Just have him just turn up and be high and just say shit. That's it. That's perfect. It would get over. But of course, they let him go, or he walked away without capitalizing on this beautiful chance that they had to really make him into a main eventer.
Well, they did try, like, way back in, I think it was 2010, like, that sort of era where they gave him the Money in the Bank, and then he cashed in on, I think, Chris Jericho, and then, like, his whole reign, he never really connected with the audience at all. Like, he had the wrestling skills, but like you say, he's not the greatest of interviews, or the greatest of getting his charisma across. So
yeah,
it was kind of doomed to failure almost.
Well,
but that was a cool era when they were giving championship reigns to, you know, people who wouldn't have necessarily got them if there wasn't a brand extension and there wasn't 2 world titles.
yeah. Well, I think that his title reign was like a real case of bad booking. Because you don't remember anything about it and they just gave up on it, which I think is similar to CM Punk's first championship reign.
Yeah.
Because they didn't care about that at all. And, like, it was very evident that they didn't care, which was a shame. And, it turned out Punk, made them some money. And I think it's the same with when Rey Mysterio won the belt. Like, the first time it wasn't about Rey Mysterio at all, which was a real shame. They played up the Eddie angle way too much. Mm-hmm. So, like, there was no focus on Rey Mysterio. And then they didn't book him right, so it didn't look right. And you never really saw Rey Mysterio as, like, a legitimate heavyweight champion.
No, because he was always booked as, like, the underdog in every single match he had. So he was just getting dominated all the time.
Yeah, but then they'd book him against, like, the Big Show or whatever. And, like... And the Big Show is going to appear on this list, let me tell you. But, like, they just didn't handle it right. And, like, of course, Rey Mysterio ended up making them a ton of money as well. But, how could you not do anything with Rey Mysterio? Fucking guy does stuff himself. Prince money. But, what do we know? Just a bunch of idiots. Whenever I was, spitballing this earlier, I was like, what about the Big Show with the first time he won the heavyweight championship at the Survivor Series 99?
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, because they fucked that up really bad. It was like they for no reason, because he had a feud with the Big Boss Man, right?
Yeah,
right before that.
The famous feud where Big Boss Man started dragging his dad's coffin around.
Yeah. So after that, they had a number 1 contendership match between, I think it was The Rock and the Big Boss Man, to see who would be the next contender for Big Show's heavyweight championship. And through some shenanigans, the Boss Man won. So the next pay-per-view was the Big Boss Man versus the Big Show. Who the fuck wants to watch that match? What? Bizarre. Man. And so, like, so that was in December, and then, like, a week or 2 later, like, Show drops the belt to Triple H on Raw. Like, it's awful. Like, how does, like, he's the Big Show. You don't have to do anything with that championship reign. Just have him be big. And they couldn't do it. So I thought that's.
I think part of the situation back then, though, was Big Show was not in good shape at all when he came over from WCW, and when WWE realized that, they kind of, had all these big plans of pushing him to the moon and, like, making him the new Andre the Giant or whatever. But as soon as they kind of realized, hang on, he needs to kind of get his ass in shape, like, they basically sent him off to OVW and got him.
Yeah, but that was months later, after the fucking Boss Man thing. Like, don't lead with that. don't start with that. The Boss Man comes out of nowhere to be the number 1 contender. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, that's a bad read for the Big Show. But then I thought, do you remember when he beat Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship?
Oh, yeah.
What was the point of that? Because Cody Rhodes was hot as a motherfucker. He was on fire. And then they have the Big Show beat him for Big Show's WrestleMania moment or whatever the fuck, some goofus thing. And then, like, he loses it, like, a month later or whatever. I think, does he lose it back to Cody Rhodes?
I think he might have, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, why bother?
Yeah. It's one of those things where maybe it's WrestleMania and they're thinking, we'll give the fans, like, a reason to pop or whatever. But it totally derailed Cody Rhodes, that's for sure. Because, like you say, he was on fire at that point.
I loved that. Was he dashing Cody Rhodes at that point?
I believe so, yeah.
I loved that. That was so good. But they have a habit of just dropping the money in favor of the Big Show. Because then after that, I'm like, oh, what about that time Big Show was United States champion? Remember that?
When he lost the title to John Cena at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, was that the reason? Was it to put
I
Cena
assume
over?
so, yeah, like, because the whole, like, build-up was so basically Cena could F you in at WrestleMania and win the title. Because it was supposed to look like this big, impressive feat that he was doing. But, nowadays everyone picks that Big Show and tosses him around, so...
Right? We're walking around fucking powerbombing the Big Show. Fuck him. Although he's very trim these days.
Yeah, oh man, he's in such good shape these days.
It's ironic. He's in the best shape of his career. I'm like, dude, if you were like this fucking 20 years ago, you would be on top.
Hell yeah.
Oh, well. Poor Big Show. I mean, he's done pretty well for himself, considering.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's, like, sat in his mansion right now thinking, yeah, life could be worse.
It's true. Yeah. So that's what I came up off the top of my head. Have you got any other ones?
Well, I mean, Jinder Mahal last year is the one that kind of really stuck out to me, first of all, just because, well, like, being a cynic, it seemed like the only reason that they put the title on him was to try and, like, boost sales for the big, like, house shows they were doing in India later that year.
Yeah.
Although, like, ironically, I'm pretty sure he'd lost the title, but by the time those house shows came along anyway, so it never really panned out that way. But I mean, it wasn't just that though. Like, he was just so bland as a champion, and he even made, like, AJ Styles look really average in the ring as well, which is
unbelievable.
Yeah, that takes some talent, I'm telling you.
Well, not talent, a lack of talent is what it takes. That's what I never liked about Jinder Mahal either. Like, they were trying to push him like he was, he's better than he used to be. He used to be a jobber, but now look at him. I'm like, yeah, but now he's just a jacked up jobber. Like,
yeah.
Like, when he won the title against Randy Orton, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, because that was on the back of a really shitty Randy Orton reign as well.
Yep. After that, he fought Randy Orton at least one other time. And then
I think it was like 2 or 3 times.
Maybe two or three times. And then Shinsuke, I think, right?
It may have been Shinsuke once. And then it transitioned definitely into, like, another 3 or 4 matches against AJ as well.
Yeah. Well, my point is that the match that he won the belt in, and the rematches against Randy Orton, and the match against Shinsuke Nakamura, all ended exactly the same way. Like, exactly the same way. Where the stupid Bollywood boys would cause a distraction for an overly long amount of time, and then whoever it is would just beat them up, and then turn around and then get hit with Jinder Mahal's finishing move. And, like, that was the finish for, like, 4 months. There's one of them, it might have been the Shinsuke match, but there's one where the referee bans, like, he throws them out. He throws out the Bollywood boys. He's like, you're out of here, right?
Yeah.
That the referee does. He's like, get to the back. And the Bollywood boys are like, what? You can't do this to us. We're good. I don't know what they said. We're Bollywood boys. And the ref's like, get out of here. You're out to the back, right?
Yeah.
And after the Bollywood boys dispute this for an overly long amount of time, they just start fucking around. They start hassling people and making a big scene. Like, they don't leave. So whoever it is, Shinsuke or Randy Orton or whatever, comes out to the ring to beat them up. So, and then he gets back in the ring and gets hit with the Jinder Mahal's finishing move. The same way they'd done before. And you're like, well, if the referee threw them out, why doesn't the referee enforce that? What's the point of him saying that? Why did the referee say, get out of here because you're interfering in the match, and then allow them to interfere in the match for like 5 minutes? Like, what the fuck?
Ugh. It was just lazy writing, I think.
Oh, also, he's a shitty wrestler.
Oh, yeah. You can't forget that.
Really just, like, the most bland, boring God, you know whenever you start a wrestling game and you create your own wrestler and it's got no moves?
Yeah.
That's Jinder Mahal.
Pretty much.
No moves. He punched and kicked and then he hit his finish. Oh, for like 20 minutes? God, those matches were so long and boring. Like, you really notice how long a match is whenever the guy in the match does nothing.
Yeah. And he's
like,
basically like going to rest holds all the time to try and kill time, basically.
He's like, this'll piss off the Sparks. I'm like, yeah, it will, but like for totally the wrong reasons. Like, I understand the use of rest holds. I'm not opposed to them. They make sense. But like, if that's like, you know, most of your... if you're going into a fight and you think, I'll just hold his head a bit for like 20 minutes, you need a better plan, you know? And that was my problem with Jinder, was that he just, like, they pushed him, but they never made him seem like a legit threat because he didn't do that himself.
Mm-hmm.
You never watched the Jinder Mahal match and went, God damn it, that guy's got some chops, you know?
Yeah.
He could have picked fucking anybody else. Like, literally anybody else on that roster and give them the same push Jinder Mahal got, and they would have done a better job. Despite the fact that none of them, you know, are Indian, they still would have been able to get over better than he did, you know?
It's one of those things as well where you think they give that opportunity so the guy can kind of grow into the role and like up his game and stuff, but there was just no, you know, example of that with Jinder Mahal. He stuck to his mediocre level, and he was resolute that he was never going to rise above that.
Yeah, like he didn't at all like try to up his game. What was the show? Fuck, there was a show. Maybe it was. Was it the Great Royal Rumble? There was some show I was watching, and I was sitting through a fucking Jinder Mahal match, and he hit a wrestling move, and I actually I was like, holy shit, he just did a move, right? Now, for you to be like already a US champion and a heavyweight champion, and to be this far into your career, for me to be surprised that you've done a move, like that's gotta be a bad sign.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude. I mean, I think we could probably fill a whole podcast with our dislike for Jinder Mahal and how that whole scenario played out. But maybe.
Well, speaking of a wrestler, I mean an Indian wrestler as well as it pertains, but someone who just doesn't know how to do any moves. It kind of brings us on to the Great Khali and his incredible reign as World Heavyweight Champion back in 2007.
Yes.
Because that was a thing of beauty, if, you know, by beauty you mean like a horrible car crash on the side of the road.
It's a thing of beauty if you have never been able to see.
Yeah, it was born out of like a really bad situation as well. Like I think Edge was the world champion at the time, but he just like torn his pec or something and had to vacate the title. So they had like this big kind of 20-man battle royal on SmackDown to crown a new champion. There wasn't that many massive names in it really. Like the biggest being probably Batista, Kane, Matt Hardy, MVP. That was about it. Somehow the Great Khali won and then remained champion for like 2 whole months after that as well. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Well, let me propose another wacky theory as to why maybe the Great Khali won the belt. Do you remember WrestleMania 2001 where they had the gimmick battle royale?
Yeah.
You remember who won that?
That was the Iron Sheik, I believe.
Do you remember why he won that?
Because he couldn't go over the top rope.
Exactly, right? Would it surprise you to learn that they'd booked the Great Khali in this match, and he's like, I can't take a bump out of it. I can't go over the ropes. And they're like, oh, fuck, well, I guess you're the winner. If you can't fall out of the ring, then I guess you're the only one left in it. It would not surprise me at all if they just like, yeah, that'll do. Fuck him. He looks big. You know, I'm sure he can do something. Turns out they were incorrect. Oh no, wait, he can chop people.
Yeah, I was gonna say he can chop real good.
Wow. he can chop. But again, like, he's a big guy. It doesn't take a whole lot to make it look like the stuff he does would hurt you. But even his chops and stuff looked stupid. Like, he just didn't, like, portray himself as a heavyweight champion at all. He just continued to portray himself as, like, the kind of bumbling fool he'd been before this. Like,
I think a big part of it, though, is just he physically couldn't do it. Like, you watch him try and walk and, like, his knees barely bend.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, he was quite a character. What I loved about that, though, was that they were like, well, let's just keep him around.
Yeah.
We'll just keep him around for ages. Because we paid for him, so we're going to use him, you know?
Well, you know what it is? They were like, well, we kind of fucked up with John Gonzalez all those years ago, so we're making amends now.
Oh, well, they nailed it. Didn't they nail it?
Hell yeah.
God, Great Khali, what a guy. Yeah, he's gonna go down in the history books as probably one of the worst. One of the worst. Just one of the worst. Just, you know, specify. No, he was one of the worst of all time.
Yep.
Just of being being a thing. He was the worst. It's hard to think of anybody worse than that right off the top of your head.
Well, unless you start getting into, like, the non-wrestlers. Like, the guys like, you know, Vince Russo.
Harvey Whippleman. Do you remember that?
Oh, when he was women's champion. Yeah. Harvina.
Yes. What a classic, brilliant piece of writing to really show how much you value the women. This was in a period that I think I've talked about before and will continue to talk about, where Ivory was the women's champion. And Ivory was brilliant. She was a joy to watch. She got it. You know what I mean? She can work. She's not the best wrestler in the world, but she can work a match.
Yeah.
And she's good on the mic. She knows, you know, the in-betweens. She's really good. And she was working at a time when they didn't care about women's wrestling. So she was really like the division. And they did this angle where the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young came back for no reason. And they had a match between Fabulous Moolah, who was like 80 or 90 at the time. 80.
Oh, yeah, she's really old.
80 something. And Ivory for the women's championship. And through, like, you know, Ivory's doing her best, but it's not easy to carry an 80-year-old woman to a good wrestling match. And so Ivory loses. Of course she loses, because why wouldn't you book that match? And I was so irritated about this because Ivory had been doing such a good job. And then Ivory wins the belt back through some more, you know, shenanigans or whatever. But I'm like, what was the point of that? Was that really worth it to just say Fabulous Moolah is now the oldest champion or whatever? Because, like, and again, I've talked about this before, about how fucking great Mae Young is. But I guarantee you, if that match had been Mae Young versus Ivory, 10 times better.
Yeah,
because it would have just turned into a brawl. Fucking Mae Young would be just swinging fists left and right. It would have been amazing. She's a scrapper. You know what I mean? She's really scrappy, which I loved. Whereas Moolah was just kind of whatever. So I'm really glad they kept Mae Young around for a while and kind of, you know, we didn't really see Moolah too much. But like,
to be fair, Moolah did die like a few years before Mae Young, so that's probably part of the reason.
No, but
why.
I mean, like that was the end of '99, I think. So like through 2000, they kept Mae Young around for a while. Whereas Moolah kind of faded away relatively shortly after that, a couple of months after that.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it was such a joy to see Mae Young. I didn't care if she was giving birth to a hand or getting destroyed through a table. You knew that, like, she was money. You know, like, every time you saw her, something good was going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And it delivered every time. But my point is, like, the Moolah winning the belt seemed like it was just silly, and it didn't help the cause, which they didn't care about. And then
No.
once Ivory won the belt back, she lost it to the Cat in a gravy bowl match. And I just feel so bad for this woman putting literally all her effort into making this belt look good. And the company she works for doing their damnedest to make that belt look like trash.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a case of, most of these have been prestigious belts that just have bad booking or just haven't had the right champion. But this is just a real shame case of, like, people not caring about a championship. You know?
For sure.
It's a shame. But, yeah. That's my fucking angry rant done. I'm gonna start again soon about something else when you see. But I feel very passionate about how good Ivory is. I love Ivory.
Yeah.
Can we get Ivory on the podcast and I'll just fucking talk about how great she is?
Just hit on her.
Hey, do you think Ivory's gonna be at the Evolution pay-per-view? Probably not.
Ooh, yeah, probably not. But
she's fresh in the Hall of Fame, and they're gonna be like, "Nope, no room for you, Ivory." Typical. If she turns up, I'm gonna be so happy. You have no idea.
That'd be pretty cool. But I do hope they do bring back some old faces and whatnot.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've already announced Trish Stratus in a match, which should be interesting.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll save that chatter for a later date.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we'll keep talking about crazy championship reigns. Yeah, Harvey Wippleman, not so good.
Nope.
And you said Vince McMahon, not so good.
Well, Vince, he made himself both WWE and ECW champion at certain points. So it's like, really? Well, I mean, you kind of think, wow, how eager was he to kind of make himself WCW champion as well when they bought them out? Like, I guarantee he's like, well, how can we do this? There's got to be a way.
I like his restraint and not doing it. Like, it's very interesting. WCW was his biggest rival, and he thought, you know what? That's the one I'm going to leave alone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch that one. I like he's like, I can't possibly do anything worse to that belt than has already been done to it. You've ruined it too much for me to do anything to it, you know? Do you remember Shane McMahon as European champion?
Yeah, that wasn't a bad championship reign, I thought.
Was it good, though?
Well,
I mean, really just fighting against X-Pac, and that was it.
Yeah. And he basically gave up being the champion, and then I think, wasn't it when Midian basically was looking for a belt, and Shane was like, oh yeah, just take that out of my bag, that's fine.
Yes, and we all know how well that went. That was a dark time in that company.
In Europe's history.
Yeah, what was that? Why did they do that?
I don't know. The whole European title was kind of not very good from the outset, really. The first champion, I believe, was the British Bulldog, and then it kind of got forgotten for months and months. And then Shawn Michaels won it, and then
he gave it to Triple H, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't taken seriously at all from the get-go, and then it just never really improved from there.
Yeah, it had some patchy times. It wasn't all plain sailing. One other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to patchy champions was, like, pretty much every single Intercontinental champion in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Because that belt changed hands, I think, 20 times. If it's not 20, it's very close to 20. So that's, like, what, almost twice a month?
Yeah.
Like, it changed hands a lot. And, like, that was the year that China won it, so that was cool. You know, China striking a blow, winning the... ironic that happened around the time that the women's division, Ivory was champion and nobody cared about it. And like, you make a woman Intercontinental champion, that's huge, and then also the women's champion you don't care about. It's crazy. But yeah, other than that, there was like a lot of reigns that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
it was very hot potato, very strange. And then, are you looking up how many times?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'd seen a graphic of it. It was like, these are all the champions of the IC champions in like 1999, and yeah, it was a lot. I think it's like 18 or 20 or something close to that number. But yeah, the point is, like, Road Dogg was champion, Goldust I think was champion in 1999. Jeff Jarrett a couple of times, Chris Jericho and Chyna were champion, and then Chyna,
D'Lo Brown, Godfather, Edge.
Yes.
Yeah, changed hands. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times in '99.
Okay, maybe
so it wasn't like WCW World Heavyweight Title in 2000 where it was just like, every 5 days the title would change hands or anything like that.
11 times? I thought it was way more. Oh, but still 11. Like, that's.
I mean, yeah, that's only 12 months in a year, so.
Yeah, like, that's crazy. Like, the belt changed hands, 11 times in 1 year, and Brock Lesnar was champion for almost 2 years and didn't defend the belt as many times.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I remember Road Dogg being champion at WrestleMania, and like that was it. Like, why was he champion? Why?
But that was a weird situation as well, because that was where like Billy Gunn was in supposed to be in the title match, and then Road Dogg was supposed to be in the hardcore title match, and for whatever reason they like switched them around.
Yeah. Strange. Yeah, it was a weird time to be an Intercontinental champion, I think. Yeah. Have you any other ones you want to chat about?
I've pretty much run through all mine. Yeah.
I got one more if you want it.
Let's hear it.
It's a man. It goes by the name of Zack Ryder.
I can't even think what title he's held.
He has been tag team champion with Kurt Hawkins for I think about a month. Mm-hmm. He was United States champion for I think either 2 or 3 months, and we all know how that title reign was booked.
Yeah.
And he was Intercontinental champion for a day.
Of course, yeah.
So that guy, not doing so hot when it comes to championships. I mean, he's won some things, but they've never been. There's never been any good payoff to it. Like whenever the Major Brothers, or they were at the Edgeheads, right?
Yeah.
When the Edgeheads won the belts, it was because Edge was the champion, so it kind of tied into that. But they lost the belt so quickly after that it there's no point to it. There's no purpose. There's no big stable coming together if the tag champions lose the belts almost immediately.
Yeah.
The US thing started off as a good feeling and the possibility of a solid new mid-carder for them to bank on, and ended very quickly with Zack Ryder being destroyed and his credibility crushed. And the Intercontinental Championship reign clearly only done to get heat on The Miz.
Mm-hmm.
Which, now, to be fair, at least that one had a purpose.
Yeah.
I don't
but
like
still,
that, yeah.
It was like a bit of a rug pull for like any Zack Ryder fans out there, because it's like, oh my god, he won at WrestleMania. He's finally going to get this push we've been asking for the last 5 years or whatever.
Yep.
And then, he loses to The Miz the next night. Basically disappears from TV.
Exactly. I mean, I am a Zack Ryder fan. Not to the extent that I think he's going to be world champion, but I think he's good. I think he can work, and I think he's had a bad shake from that company, and they just continue to prove it. And it's a shame because I don't feel like the guy deserves it. Like he could have had a decent Intercontinental Championship reign, And he could have had a decent feud with The Miz. I mean, I guess I don't like The Miz. I don't want to say anything nice about him, but like, you know what I mean? Like, if they give him a chance, he's not gonna screw up. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But they don't give him a chance, and that's a shame. But yeah, his championship. Well, at least he's won championship, so that's something. You know?
Yeah, but like I said, I couldn't really remember it until you mentioned which championships he won. So
yeah, maybe it makes me sound like a real fucking Zack Ryder. I love him so much. Oh my god, I know all his championship reigns, and he's so cool. I mean, he's not that cool. He talks about collecting wrestling figures and stuff a lot, which is not cool. But I like Zack Ryder. You know, he's just one of those guys that the WWE just haven't like appreciated. And he would have been a guy that would have been benefited a lot from doing like a Cody Rhodes and just kind of, or a Drew McIntyre, and taking some time off. And if they wanted to come back later, they could have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he was almost his own worst enemy as well, because he went out and tried to get over on his own. And like the WWE machine doesn't like it when you try and do that. Oh no. It's all about like their ideas and, you know, how they choose to push you rather than any kind of organic reaction from the crowd. So Zack goes and does his whole Z Long Island true stories, and people are bringing signs to the arena and chanting for him and stuff. And because that's not on the cards as far as WWE is concerned, like they basically push him as far as they have to, and then, you know, pull the rug out from under him as soon as they can.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, he's got a job for life, though, I think. He's one of those guys that they can count on. Unless he decides to make the move to leave, you know? That's what I think.
But I think he's getting on in years as well. Like, he's been there probably going on 10 years at least now.
Yeah.
And it's probably a case of, well, does he try and go out into the indies and kind of make a name for himself, or does he just try and stick with the job that's paying him well to basically sit at home and wrestle the occasional match on Main Event or whatever?
Yeah. Poor Zack Ryder.
Yeah.
That's going to be the title of this episode. Poor Zack Ryder. Yeah. Now, so you want to scoot over, or have we've covered a lot of stuff, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so. We've nailed like most of the very worst world or universal championship reigns. We've kind of talked about the European title and Intercontinental title.
Yeah, we talked about the big ones, I think, and the Women's Championship, of course.
Mm-hmm.
My beloved Ivory.
Yeah.
This is a weird, like, stalkery podcast has turned into. I'm just like, let's get Zack Ryder on the show. Oh my god.
Yeah.
God dang it. Cool. All right. So these were some of our picks of like really not so good championship reigns and the champions that go with them. So cool. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.
Ta-ra.